Our next guest really needs no introduction. The all-time winningest basketball coach at this year university, Richard Digger Phelps. And let me tell you something, Digger. Back when I worked in the sports information office and you were the head coach walking around, you had this massive personality. You intimidated the heck out of us, just so you know. Just because you walked, you were just a legendary figure.
And look where it got you. I was coaching then. You didn't realize I was coaching for the game of life.
What are you most proud of during your career here?
20 years as head basketball coach. 56 guys played for me. All 56 got their degrees. That's a 100% graduation ratio back in the 70s and 80s.
Wow.
When other schools were at 30%.
Wow.
To me, it was what we were at Notre Dame. Emil Hoffman, his freshman year, was studying what he did with freshmen and what Mike DeCicco did as academic advisor, but more importantly, what we did as a university to make sure you're getting degrees so that you can play in the game of life after basketball.
And there are certain things, you have to work around some of these study habits. You just dealt with it.
Well, you mentioned Bill Hansley.
Yes, I work with Bill.
I never saw him on Mondays. Why? He got a degree in engineering because that's when most of his classes were. You don't have to practice. He still show up and play and was the first round draft pick in the NBA, was on the '80 Olympic team, so it worked.
Give me a quick Hansley story that I could take back to Denver.
He could guard anybody. Yeah. No, he knows that. I mean, he just would take any situation, offensively or defensively. He was a chemistry player on the floor, but defensively, he could shut down anybody. Ask Butch Lee at Marquette when they were number one.
I know you were very close with Father Ted, and I also hear that he sort of played the role of bench coach at times.
When I got hired at Notre Dame, there was three things I was told by Father Hesburgh and Father Joyce. One, make sure your kids graduate. Two, don't break any NCAA rules. And three, we have mass the day of the game and make sure we're competitive. Well, Father Hesburgh said mass 7 times. As you can see in that photo right now, that was when we beat DePaul in double overtime. He won 3 games against number 1 teams, and it came back to Bill Cartwright in San Francisco when they were 29-0. Then, of course, with Marquette. But more importantly, that DePaul picture right there is the cover of our book that's coming out. But the thing is, I got my arm out, and as you can see, and I say, Father, double overtime. A lot of prayers for this one. Yeah, Digger, I was running out of Hail Marys, which is vintage Hesburgh at his best.
Tell us about this book.
Well, the book, as you take a look at it, he's the one who got me from coaching basketball to coaching the streets. And mostly about what we did in the book is to tell stories about him and his life. And when you look at how we used to get together over Parisi's restaurant, it was Father Doyle, Father Collins, Melanie, Linda, my fiance, the last 7 years of his life, and of course Father Hesburgh and Roberto. Roberto would make the Alfredo sauce because as you go back and look at Father Hesburgh, one of his best friends was this guy that was a Monsignor and then Cardinal of Milano. His name was Giovanni Montini,
Very
who
nicely
became
done.
Pope Paul VI.
Oh my goodness.
So those guys used to hang out together. And so one night at the round table at Parisi's, I said, give me your starting 5. Digger, you're still coaching? Yeah. I want to know with the thousands of people you met in the world, tell me about your starting 5. Well, one was Pope Paul VI because of their relationship. Wow. 2 was Eisenhower because of the Civil Rights Act. 3 was Father Joyce because of what they did together for 35 years. And after 20 years, Father Ted said, hey, I'll take over as your job. You become president. No, we're fine. We'll keep it going. 4 was Helen, his secretary, because I knew there'd be a woman. I thought it was going to be Joan Kroc. But Helen, who would be on an Underwood typewriter with her fingers in arthritis, big thick glasses, smoking a cigarette. Helen one day said to him, when he didn't have a speaker for graduation, why don't you ask President Eisenhower? And Father Ted said, oh, he's too busy. He went, did you ask Eisenhower? No, I didn't. Well, why don't you ask him? Why don't you ask him? She gets on the typewriter. A week later, Ike's coming. Do you have anybody from Rome yet to say Mass for the seniors? Which turned out to be Pope Paul VI. And the last one of his starting 5 was Leahy. Not because he fired him, but because of the controversy when they won at Washington and Hesburgh was a game priest. Leahy complained about the officials. Bad national headlines. Crybaby Notre Dame comes from behind, second half beats the University of Washington. Well, they had a little walk around the lake, and Leahy thinks he's getting fired. And what it was, a 2-day train ride to get out there, Father Hesburgh said, I talked to Father Kavanaugh. Now, Frank, you can charter planes to the West Coast. So that was his starting 5.
That is phenomenal when you think about the reach he had in this world. Tell us about what's happening, because you're playing a huge role in this on September 1st.
Well, I was on the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee for 22 years, and people didn't realize I was in it, but I was a stamp collector as a kid. In an '84 Olympics in LA, the '83 basketball stamp was unveiled here during the AAU games. So I'm talking to people on the stamp from the Postal Service, and they say, "You're a stamp collector?" I said, "Yeah." They put me on the committee. In 1988, I had President Reagan come out for the Rockney 100th birthday stamp. And the Gipper was here and did a great job with 10,000 people in a basketball arena. So when Father Hesburgh died, I made some calls to the Postal Service and said, hey, let's get him a forever stamp. So that stamp will be unveiled on the 1st of September, the day before the Dayton game, and you can see it right here at the Temple game here at Notre Dame. And Father Hesburgh had a great love for Condoleezza Rice. She is going to be the speaker, and we expect another 10,000 in that arena. And it'll be the forever stamp, which means whatever you pay for it now, you can use it forever. So you get a roll of 100 for $49. I think they're going to sell about $1 million worth of stamps that weekend for Father Hesburgh and this forever stamp because of who he was and what he was, not just the Civil Rights Act, but the people he just touched around the world in his life, not just being a priest, but being someone else who just cared as a priest.
A coach is always a coach. I don't care. Even today, you're coaching someone something. Do you still stay in touch with your former players?
Yeah, a lot. It's interesting to see how they are. You talk about Hans and what he's doing in Denver. Paxton's with the Bulls, trying to get them to win again. But more importantly, I look at their lives. Stan Wilcox, who was on that Final Four team, with Kelly Tripucco, Landry Woolridge, and Dave Batten, and Duck Williams, Jeff Carpenter, Randy Hafner, and Bruce Flowers, Bill Lambier, and Hanslick and Branning. Those guys were something special to how they got to that Final Four. But Scott Paddock runs Chicago Speedway as president. Stan Wilcox is AD at Florida State. A guy named Jameer Jackson, who is from Peoria, Illinois. He is now the CFO of Nielsen's Ratings.
Wow.
So all these guys are all over the place. Alfonso Ellis is back here in town with his wife and kids, and he started Jamba Juice and got rid of it because he was an entrepreneur. He got his degree in business. I wouldn't let him out of business. And of course, now he does ESPN. But a lot of those guys really have become who they are because of what Notre Dame is and their life after basketball because they all got Notre Dame degrees and understand what the Notre Dame network is, and that's why they're all winners.
Digger, an honor and a privilege to talk to you many years later. Thank you very much. I will, very much so. He'll say something snide, and then we'll start talking.
September 1st, and don't forget the book.
That's right.
Father Hesburgh, he coached me, and that book, that money's going to go for scholarships for some needy kids and some needy high schools to come here in Hesburgh's honor.
It's worth just hearing about that starting five again.